Have you ever had your air conditioning break down in the middle of July? The frustration, the heat, the sticky air, it feels unbearable. Now imagine living in the Middle Ages. No fans, no ice, no modern technology. The closest thing to cooling relief was a servant waving a decorative fan, and yet medieval people endured summers just as hot as ours. In southern Europe, temperatures often soared above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius. Even regions like England and northern France weren't spared from brutal heat waves, some recorded in chronicles as so extreme they shocked entire communities. So, how did medieval people survive the summer without AC? The answer lies in their homes, their habits, and their surprisingly clever use of nature. In the Middle Ages, where you lived determined almost everything about your daily life. Most people, around 9 out of 10, didn't live in big towns at all, but in small rural villages surrounded by farmland. Their homes were simple cottages, often built from wood, mud, and thatch. These houses were small, usually just 1 or 2 rooms, where an entire family lived, ate, and slept together. Cities existed, but they were far smaller than we imagine today. Take London, for example. In 1300, it was one of Europe's largest cities, yet it only had around 50,000 people. That's tiny compared to the millions who live there now. City houses were built tall and narrow, stacked upward to save space, with shops or workshops on the ground floor and living quarters above. Streets were crowded and hot in summer, the timber buildings leaning so close together that neighbors could practically touch hands from opposite windows. For the wealthy, life looked very different. Lords and nobles lived in large stone manors or castles. These weren't just fortresses. They were designed for daily living, complete with kitchens, great halls, and private chambers. Unlike peasants, nobles had more space, thicker walls, and servants to keep life running smoothly. In medieval society, the way people lived was closely tied to their wealth. Most peasants and farmers had to make do with the bare minimum. Their cottages were often smoky, dark, and cold in the winter, yet stifling in the summer. Comfort wasn't a priority, survival was. Beds, when they had them, were stuffed with straw, and families often shared sleeping space with animals to keep warm at night. But step into the home of a wealthy merchant or noble, and you'd find a very different world. These households had larger stone buildings with stronger walls that kept out heat and gave shade during the summer months. Nobles could afford glass windows, which not only made rooms brighter, but also allowed breezes to flow through when opened. Their thick curtains and tapestries didn't just decorate the rooms, they also kept interiors cooler by blocking direct sunlight. The wealthy also had access to gardens and courtyards, where fresh air and shaded spots offered relief during hot days. Some castles and manors even had high-ceilinged rooms designed to stay cooler, with servants ensuring the lord and his family were comfortable. Unlike peasants who had to work under the blazing sun in fields, nobles could retreat to shaded halls, cooled chambers, and leafy courtyards whenever the heat became unbearable. This contrast between poor and rich living wasn't just about luxury, it was about survival. Where peasants endured heat and exhaustion, the upper class used their resources to bend their environment to their needs, creating a very different experience of daily life in the Middle Ages. The wealthy engineered comfort long before the science of thermodynamics existed. Thick stone walls, some as wide as 4 feet, acting as natural insulation. By day, they absorbed heat. By night, they slowly released it, keeping interiors stable and cool. High ceilings, great halls with ceilings 20 to 30 feet tall, allowed hot air to rise, leaving cooler air below for lords and ladies. Cross ventilation, tall, narrow windows placed opposite each other created natural breezes. Some even had alabaster screens that filtered sunlight but let air flow through. Stone and marble floors, naturally cool, sometimes dampened with water to enhance evaporative cooling. Gardens, pergolas draped with vines, shade trees, and fountains created microclimates of cool air. Wealthy estates even used running water systems to mist gardens on scorching days. Underground cellars, constant at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, these spaces stored food and doubled as natural cooling retreats. Together, these features created homes that could remain surprisingly comfortable even in the hottest months. While nobles had stone walls and fountains, peasants relied on ingenuity and tradition. Thatch roofs, thick layered straw provided natural insulation, keeping interiors up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than outside. Ventilation, Doors and windows were arranged to create airflow, with smoke holes doubling as exhaust vents. Work schedules. Heavy labor was done in the early morning and late evening. Midday breaks, like a medieval siesta, helped avoid the worst heat. Tree planting. Deciduous trees offered shade in summer and sunlight in winter. Many preferred fruit trees for shade and food. Stone courtyards. Though hot by day, they radiated warmth at night, useful for drying herbs and food. For peasants, these strategies weren't just about comfort, they were about survival. Heat wasn't the only problem. Summer brought swarms of insects. Mosquitoes, described in chronicles as so thick they darkened the air. Nobles employed servants to fan them away. Herbs as repellents. Lavender, rosemary, and wormwood were planted around homes and hung indoors. Smoke. Certain woods like cedar were burned to create protective barriers. Animals, chickens, bats, and swallows acted as natural pest control. Herb bundles. Hung from beams, they repelled insects while doubling as kitchen supplies. Medieval pest control was both practical and surprisingly effective. Many of these plants are still used in modern repellents. Staying cool wasn't just about architecture, it was also about clothing. Nobles. Linen undergarments layered beneath silk. Linen wicked sweat. Silk regulated temperature. Some garments were even scented with herbs. Peasants. Loose-fitting linen or lightweight wool, undyed and practical. Some dampened clothes for evaporative cooling. Knights, the worst off. Wearing armor in summer was like being baked in an oven. They relied on padded undergarments and frequent breaks. Head coverings, straw hats for peasants, veils and caps for nobles. Hats weren't fashion, they were survival. Shoes, lightweight leather indoors, bare feet outdoors for peasants. Nobles sometimes had special summer shoes. Fashion reflected class, but everyone shared one goal, beating the heat without collapsing. Medieval people also worried about the sun itself. Wealthy beauty standards prized pale skin, leading to extreme measures. Some used recipes with white lead as sunscreen, effective but toxic. Common folk relied on practical solutions, hats, long sleeves, and simply avoiding the sun during peak hours. Home remedies. Egg whites with rose water, aloe vera, cucumber juice, all used to soothe burns. Architecture, covered walkways, deep doorways, and shaded markets offered natural protection. For peasants, survival meant practicality. For nobles, it meant prestige, even if it came at a dangerous cost. So, how did medieval people survive summer without air conditioning? Through clever architecture, daily habits, natural materials, and a deep understanding of their environment. From stone castles with built-in cooling systems to humble cottages shaded by fruit trees, medieval people found ways to keep cool, methods so effective that some inspire sustainable design even today. The next time you step into an air-conditioned room, remember, centuries ago, people lived through the same heat and managed it with nothing but ingenuity. This was Medieval Undiscovered. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to subscribe, because next time we'll uncover another hidden truth of medieval life.